What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from TheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about taking lives and freedom in Braveheart. This is the 30th anniversary of Braveheart. The movie came out in 1995. It's 2025. Simple math brought me to that conclusion. Click like and subscribe so that we can get into Braveheart. We're going to talk about the audio description track. This is available with audio description in several places. Notably Paramount Plus, where I didn't have to rent or buy Braveheart. I actually own it on DVD, but because, accessibility doesn't quite make it to physical media, it doesn't have audio description. So I shouldn't have to keep buying the same movie over and over just to get audio description and accessibility with my movie. It's a 3-hour epic. If you haven't seen Braveheart before, it's also an Academy Award winner for Best Picture, so it ends up on a lot of people's sort of bucket lists who are trying to see all of the Best Picture nominees. I have seen the film before, taking a second look at it. Haven't seen it in quite a while. Wasn't my favorite movie when it came out. I sort of appreciate aspects of it. It's historically inaccurate and quite a bit of a mess, but I don't know that that's entirely the point of Braveheart. I think really what this is supposed to represent is the fight for Scottish freedom, not necessarily a history lesson for William Wallace, although, ironically, where I watched this was in history class. I was in high school. This thing was on VHS. I didn't see it in theaters. Mom was never going to let me see this in theaters. And we had to take a note home to our parents saying that our teacher wanted to show us Braveheart. Can you imagine, like, nowadays, like, people would lose their minds. Like, they're just all about, like, not... I grew up in a conservative red area. My teacher was all about Braveheart. Like, try to tell her. I don't know, she's probably out there marching with a bunch of red hats, but she'd be offended if somebody told her she couldn't show Braveheart in the class. She'd be like, "What? This is history." So we watched Braveheart in class with she only fast forwarded through like a couple of scenes, like sex scenes, basically. We saw most of it, and since then I've seen it like at least twice. Like, again, I bought it on DVD, rewatched it, and I've seen it at least another time there somewhere. It's not like my favorite movie of all time, but I really wanted to dive into it this year because I was thinking, after having seen Flight Risk earlier this year, which is just like kind of an abomination in terms of film direction, it bears mentioning that Mel Gibson used to be a good director at one point. Like, he used to be able to capture awe and be able to understand plot structure and character development and have these bombastic, memorable battle sequences and characters that you root for and cheer for, regardless of whether or not it makes any sense, and weird relationships that shouldn't work. And he makes everything feel inspiring, even if you really dissect it, it's really not. There are a lot of things that are just kind of imperfect in Braveheart, but also at the same time, the whole through line in Braveheart is, aren't you inspired yet? Are you the path of Scottish freedom, which in and of itself is not 100% accurate. There are a lot of problems that the movie has. One of them notably is the fact that Mel Gibson is older than William Wallace was when he died. At the beginning of the film, Mel Gibson is already older than William Wallace was when he died in the film. So he's not really age appropriate, but by God, he's going to direct and star in this movie, which won 5 Academy Awards, including for Best Picture and Director. So he did win an Academy Award for direction, which is why Flight Risk is such a problem. Such a weird misstep in a series of missteps that we've had from auteurs. I'll call Mel Gibson an auteur for lack of a better word. He is an Academy Award winner for director. that we had recently with everybody from uh, everything from like Megalopolis to Joker Folie à Deux to uh, I don't know, I'll throw Horizon in there. The fact that Kevin Costner thinks he make four of those, like, good luck. The audacity. Um, uh, we just yeah, there've been several films made by high-profile directors. Everything Robert Zemeckis has made in the last couple of years. Um, that sort of make you wonder, like, what happened? Like, where did their talent drift away? Are they not being funded correctly? What is happening to the? Because they used to be able to tell great stories, so why aren't they anymore? They're, for lack of a better word, coming from a blind film critic, their eye for filmmaking, where did that go? So here we have the story of William Wallace. We see sort of in the beginning, um, him as a young boy, and it starts off brutal. This movie earns its R rating within 30 seconds. Like, the interesting thing about the rating is that it originally was rated NC-17 because it's crazy to think about stuff like that. I think about films now and what they get away with in R ratings, and even you can point to films in the 2000s too, in the 2010s, when we started giving films certain R ratings, and oftentimes people always thought that we could get away with more violence, right? That violent movies would make it would it was always sex or queerness in cinema that was causing NC-17 ratings. No, it was violence here. In 1995, the MPAA was worried that Braveheart was too violent, and this movie originally received an NC-17 rating and had to make specific cuts in order to achieve an R rating. It was actually rated NC-17 for, I don't know, too much graphic violence. So uh yeah, the movie does not care. It's not ever thinking. It knows what lies ahead. Lie uh what you're gonna get to, if you're gonna stick with this movie for 3 hours, so it's gonna let you know right up ahead, did you accidentally bring your child to this? We're gonna maybe make you think again. um so yeah, we have that scene where William sees his whole family, and just then he goes off to live with his uncle Argyle, which is Brian Cox, which I forgot he was in this. I did. I love Brian Cox, and I like making it a point to see his entire filmography. And he, as soon as I heard the voice, I was like, "Fuck, that's Brian Cox." Like, I recognized the voice immediately, knew who it was, looked it up. IMDb, yep, Ryan Cox was in this for like 5 minutes, which is it sucks so much because in 1995, Brian Cox was still like, just like kind of like people knew who he was, character actor, right? He didn't have quite the weight behind him that he does now, but he's known for being a Scottish actor. So I have a hard time believing that if Braveheart was made in 2025 with Brian Cox at the stature he is now, that he would have 5 minutes of screen time in Braveheart. And for somebody who has never been nominated for an Oscar but has the body of work of an actor who should be nominated for an Oscar, it seems like maybe there could have been a role given to him here that could have substantially gotten him to that with Braveheart was rolling forward. But I don't, then you have to take the Mel Gibson effect. Like, would we still have made this movie? Would he still have turned out to be who he was? All those kind of things. So this was back before we were all able to enjoy Mel Gibson without any sort of like asterisks on top of it, before before we knew what he was thinking, before the tabloids had quite gotten a hold of anything regarding his personal relationships. So now it just makes it a lot harder to sit back and not think about that with Mel Gibson movies. But if he somehow remained untarnished for 30 years and tried to make it now and just directed it with a younger actor, I feel like Brian Cox would have been an absolute go-to for a more substantial role, instead of I'm here for a few minutes, I have some lines, and I'm gone. Bye. That's Argyle. Um, so uh, William comes back from his travels. He's learned like multiple languages, and he's now an adult. He shouldn't be as old as he is, but you know, he rides back into the village, sees somebody that he knew from back in the day. They fall in love. Uh, Things don't work out well because even though they get married, there's like a lord of the land or whatever that rides in and is like, I have the right to deflower her. Uh, Great. No. So William kind of sends the message that that's not going to happen. And then ultimately they try it a second time, which they end up taking her on the second time, and she ends up sort of dying, which not sort of, I don't know, that sounds weird. You either are dead or okay, not dead. She ends up dead, which is what compels William forward on his quest to sort of rebel against English and nobility and this idea that they can just have whatever they want and take whatever they want to take. And that's kind of the through line here. There's not, William Wallace existed in the, the 13th century. So it's the stories and stuff and the accuracies are all not quite as having the public record that we do today. There's some myth that I think that's mixed in, some legend stuff in with the history, but there's still some inaccuracies in the film in terms of what did and didn't happen, and I don't know that it doesn't matter that much. The film is just sort of an ode to Scotland's uh, pride. The idea that they're this country that pushes back against being taken over. You know, colonialism is something we talk about a lot in terms of like the global effect of colonialism. But we forget that like just strictly on UK soil where, I mean, these two countries bleed into each other. They don't have to like travel across water, you know, that even simply in the United Kingdom, that this idea of imperialism was being forced into Scottish lands, that the British were trying to just force their way into Scotland because of I don't know, divine providence. So the idea to rule over everything in sight, that like Mufasa, everything the light touches is yours. It kind of defines a lot of this movie. It's kind of what kings live off of. If I can see it, it's mine. If it's within arm's reach. Hell, if it's within walking, running, horse distance, it's mine. So William just, over the course of time, he kind of gathers this army, and Robert the Bruce comes in, and no, his stuff is not historically accurate either, but whatever. And there's like Steve the Irishman who comes into play here, which sort of helps William end up having a relationship with the Irish, which works against the British. And of course you have to watch sort of like on the other side, the nobility and like how they're moving through things, and all the different things. And some of it's unintentionally funny. Gibson has some moments here that just don't hold up 30 years later. There's this awesome sequence that is so so silly with the horse riding up the stairs. I had forgotten about this. This scene is amazing. The horse goes up the stairs and like kicks in the doors and like kicks some people in the face and then jumps out of a window. It's like a 3-story window and then like lands in a moat. It's just it's so ridiculous. Um, we've got GI Horse here. Um, but yeah, it's also extremely bloody and violent. You know, part of the stuff that I know about the direction of the film is Mel Gibson, because he had worked on the set of Mad Max with George Miller, was sort of really impressed with practical effects and had a more grounded knowledge and use of them from having done the Mad Max movies. That he sort of embraced certain ways of Miller's style in direction and the use of uh, various shots in order to show graphic violence without hurting anybody, without putting anybody in any sort of danger. And so he has all these chaotic battle sequences where like arrows are flying through the air and people are getting stabbed through the eye and all this kind of blood is just spurting. And it's all practically done. In 1995 it would have looked awful if it was visual effects. Obviously I'm blind, so I'm going based off of what I remember, but Braveheart I remember looking solid as a film. It's a very, well, I don't want to say beautiful film because it's really graphically violent, but in terms of the quality that's put into it, it looks great for its time. It doesn't look cheap. We had some really weird visual effects back in these days. If they cut, if they tried to cut corners. The airplane crash in Air Force One always just sort of stands out to me as something that I remember from being able to see days where I'm like, oh fuck, that was that was not good. No, but practicality always looks good if you do it right. Like it has the ability to just sort of wow and impress. And I think that's another one of the reasons why I don't mind his directorial style and his win here for direction, because he sort of embraced the filmmaking, like he didn't embrace new technology in a way that was going to make it cheaper, easier, or quicker to film these scenes. Instead, he shot it with real people and just figured out how to make it work based on some old Australian indie movie that he made back in the day. I have heard this film called a little homophobic. I didn't pick up on that as much in this film. It's hard to call anything in the 1300s too homophobic if that's not like the main plot of the film, because it's not like, not every culture, we can't go back to the Greeks, right, with sort of this like openness of in certain respects. Obviously for different cultures they responded to things differently, but it wasn't quite the same. It doesn't have the same tinge to it that it does now when it happens. I don't think homophobia in the same way means the same thing to somebody in the 1300s that it does to somebody who's actively choosing to do it in 2025. I'm not sure those are the same thing. So it's not discussed, it's not made a huge thing. It's just how Gibson captures certain reactions and shots and slight suggestions of maybe a relationship between two characters that doesn't really play out on screen, but like just sort of like these looks, right? These moments between people, that's enough there that if you like try to go through history books or whatever, if it forces you to look it up, then you'll find out what was going on between those characters. Like why did Gibson choose to include this kind of stuff in the film? It's not really relevant to the plot. And for a film that's widely historically inaccurate, like Isabel coming in was not the same age as William was. at this point. Definitely, he definitely did not have sex with her and impregnate her. That did not happen. So yeah, it takes liberties with the story, and honestly, I don't like that whole thing either because he's one of the beautiful things about the story that Mel Gibson loses track of is his whole inspiration for this initially, which even his friends don't catch on to, is essentially revenge. He essentially fell in love and his woman was taken from him. And so that's what inspires him to move forward. And there's always sort of like this catalyst of, it's like the John Wick thing, right? Like if people had just not killed the damn dog, so many people would be alive right now. Like, I don't think that he cared so much about being robbed as he did them killing the dog. Like they could have gotten away with a lot more if they just left the dog alone. You know, the whole franchise is based on they had to go for the dog. You know, John Wick without the dog death, I think is John Wick just going like, well, I just need to rebuild my life. I don't know. It just becomes really boring. So where this movie sort of goes wrong is we know that Wallace is in this because of love. So the fact that he would ever be with anybody else, you know, you don't have the kind of time to establish a second relationship in a meaningful way. So I would never have gone there. It's one of the things that if you're not going to do it right, if it's not going to be this like two souls, it has to be like almost like it works well when it's like two people who have lost and then they come together in grief, and that doesn't really happen here. It's just it's just kind of like moves the fuck on at a certain point in the movie and forgets why he started this rebellion to begin with. So anyway, it all leads to you know, obviously overly quoted sequences. They may take our lives, but they'll never take. And the ending sequence with the drawing and quartering, which was the scene that originally earned it an NC-17 rating. It was a scene that they had to change, which is why you don't see him full out drawn and quartered, and it's sound effects. But they shot it. So somewhere out there, Braveheart director's cut would be a lot more graphic than this, if that exists. I don't know. Has Mel Gibson put out director's cuts in this? I don't need to see it. I just feel like it would be longer. And already this is a film. It's not a film that feels shorter than it is. This is a film that feels, it's 3 hours, and it certainly feels 3 hours, if not longer. Like, especially the more you see it, it doesn't get any quicker with time passing. If you don't love it, like if you don't love Braveheart, it certainly doesn't speed up. So, audio description. So I like the narrator. He's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The writing is a little overly ambitious in places. There are times when it goes a little bit too far into sort of interpretation and translation instead of just telling me what things are. Sort of a little bit of a spoilery moment, but one of the ones that stood out to me the most because it was so stupid and unnecessary was there's a scene where Wallace he charges after the nobility as they're like walking away from battle, and one of the soldiers turns around to him and charges at him and fights him and knocks him on his ass. And so when Wallace looks up at who it is, he sees that it's Robert the Bruce, who has been helping him all the way up until this point. And the look of betrayal on his face, right, is there. And you can capture all of that. You can capture the moment of the betrayal, but it actually included a line that was something like, shocked to see his former friend and now foe, or like it actually like explained it. So in case you didn't understand or fell asleep for the first 2 hours of the movie and didn't recognize who Robert the Bruce was, and didn't remember all of those scenes that William had with Robert, and couldn't like thematically put that together as why William would be shocked to be knocked on his ass, it actually tells you why you should be shocked, in case you're fundamentally stupid on every level. In case you're just drunk or high or whatever. It's like, I don't get it. Oh my God. And thank God the audio description told me why I'm supposed to feel it. But they were friends. That's why. Oh, I get it. It's like, I think it's kind of a major plot point. Robert the Bruce isn't exactly one of the characters in the film with nominal screen time. So I kind of found that to be a little distractingly interpretive. I like, I'm all about audio description. It gives us the most, but this was unnecessary audio description. It's, there's a lot happening in this movie. There's just a ton of violence. There are all these crazy costumes. I mean, Mel Gibson made a movie in the 1300s where they're wearing kilts, where people didn't even wear kilts back then. So we're missing all these opportunities to describe painted faces that would never have been painted during the time period. He's taken so many liberties with his movie, and obviously like violence and blood and outfits, and I don't know, just the scenery, the way things are shot. There are so many things that you could bring in, that to use your little bit of time to unnecessarily explain something that should be blatantly obvious to anybody who's been awake for the first 2 hours of this movie. Um, it just kind of felt like, why? Why was this choice made? So, things like that. There were just some times where we got a little bit into storytelling, a little bit into that instead of into description. And I, performative audio description is different than interpretive audio description. Interpretive audio description is the writer trying to glean things from the script and then put what they've interpreted a certain look means, or what a certain scene is included for, how you're supposed to feel in any given moment. That's when it includes those things. I love performative audio description because it means that the voice is trying to match the project. Interpretive audio description, not so much. It's the reason I stopped watching Day of the Jackal, Eddie Redmayne's series, because that audio description track is horrific and I fucking hate it. So with Braveheart, it had moments of that. It's not so obnoxious. Day of the Jackal, unfortunately, has so many scenes where you speak in another language, and instead of verbatim translating what the subtitles, I'm assuming there are subtitles in that series, are saying, it decides to summarize a conversation. So instead of giving me like word for word translation, it just, they talk about the bus. I'm like, okay, that's not helpful. And it's kind of disrespectful, actually, to summarize for me. So yeah, choices. I don't think this one made all of the right choices in terms of audio description, but I'm not gonna say that I remember Braveheart like 100% well and say that, do I think everything was included visually. That Braveheart is just not one of my favorite films of all time. It's not a desert island movie. It's a film that I respect, but I probably would have given Best Picture to something else. I don't mind that it has Best Picture. It's not one of the choices that angers me, where I just go back through time and I'm like, what the fuck were we thinking? What? I'm not one of those people who's like, Babe should have won. Babe. I like Babe, but I don't know, Best Picture? I just don't know. So, I don't know, Apollo 13, like what else could have won here? I think it's debatable. I think it's one of those things where you can get into where there's not like a clear sort of like, okay, so Saving Private Ryan versus Shakespeare in Love. Or you're like, clearly we messed up in that year. Like, that is the wrong choice. This isn't that for me. This is just an unenthusiastic choice for Best Picture, where I'm just like, it's fine. He's good for Best Actor, Mel Gibson. I'm glad he didn't win. He just won Director and Picture. So, it's, if you want to celebrate Braveheart, by all means. But one of the things that I wanted to just mention, and the whole purpose I was doing this and watching him first time with audio description, was there's actually a director here. There's a director worth analyzing and dissecting and talking about. And with Flight Risk, there isn't. There's nothing there. That movie could have been directed by anybody. There's no style, there's no substance, there's no skill required in Flight Risk. But yet it's a Mel Gibson movie. And we can debate whether or not he should be directing, whether or not we should allow him back in Hollywood and the extent of cancel culture. My debate is if he's back, at least he should still be talented. At least the things that he's doing should still be good. You know, canceled or not, he should still be a good actor or a good director or both. Like, that should be why he's here. Seeing somebody just sort of languish and continuing to fund people who have name recognition and value while their work continues to decline is not necessarily the greatest way for these people to go out. Luckily, Eastwood was able to sort of redeem himself with Juror Number Two, but when we keep funding people that clearly keep striking out over and over and over and over without us ever asking, should this project be funded? Is this person back on, you know, are they actually, is this going to work? Is this thing going to, actors keep showing up and they want to work with these directors because they believe that something's going to happen. And I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of things that are not that are very much the opposite of that are just people who were good a while ago and now seem to have forgotten what filmmaking is on some level or what acting is. So check out Braveheart because everybody needs to know what a decent Mel Gibson movie looks like conceptually as a director. From that standpoint, it's brutal, it's bloody, it's overly violent, it's everything that it's reported to be, and not my favorite movie of all time. It's too long. It takes a lot of liberties with history, but I think at the end of the day, there's something really interesting about an Australian man writing one of the best representations of Scottish pride and freedom that you could that possibly exists out there. You know, this thing that kind of just, it doesn't make any sense, but for some reason, damn it, we're gonna make them give us our freedom. You know, there's something to that. So I'm gonna give Braveheart. I'm gonna give it a B. I don't love it that much, but I respect it as a film. It's certainly not a bad film. But yeah, I don't know that it still holds up 30 years later. It's not a film I want to watch over and over. I know some people do, and that's fine. This just is a good movie for me, not a great one. Probably if I went back through 1995 and I could only give 5 spots for Best Picture, I think I'd find a different film that wasn't nominated that year for the spot. But I could probably say that about other films that were nominated in 1995 and other performances that were nominated in 1995. So, there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.